Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Mission Maker series that I'm running here in DCS World. And today we're going to be creating our next sort of series in the saga. And this set is going to be a CAS type mission, sort of like a mission profile, I think. You know, the previous mission we looked at a C-130 resupply mission. Today we're probably going to look at a CAS. So what I intend to do is we're going to operate as an F-16, and we'll generate sort of like a bit of a kill box area up here, and this will be our area of sort of like responsibility. And we'll have some threats pop up, and we'll have a JTAC or AFAC guide us in onto the targets, and so on. So let's go ahead and start jumping into that. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a kill box for us. Now, from what I gather, whenever units or forces operate in a certain area, say we've got Syria here, for example, the country itself is just too big to be controlled or dominated by just one set of units. So, a formation of two F-16s, for example. So what they do is they operate in, I think, what they're called kill boxes, or like areas of responsibility. So for us, for example, today, we're going to have an area of responsibility covering like Raqqa down to Deir ez-Zor, I think that's how you pronounce it. And that is going to be our area of responsibility. So anything that pops up in there is going to be our responsibility to go in and kill it. Plain and simple. So let's draw our area of responsibility. So polygon, we want a rectangle, and let's just draw it something like that, I think. Do I want to extend it a little bit? Again, it's starting to get quite to a big area there. So no, let's keep it like that. It's going to be our area of responsibility. It's still quite a large area there. So let's just do something like that, just to bring it down a bit, and let's make it a bit of a darker red, just to make it pop out. And then let's call it AOR, Area of Responsibility. I think that's what AOR stands for, or it's going to be Area of Operation, whichever you want to call it. I'm not bothered, but that's how we know that it's going to be us operating in that area. And I'm going to change its binding layer to blue, so that we can see it as the blue force on our map, F10 map, during once we're actually out there flying. And let's just change it. There we go. So now we know that this is our area of responsibility that we're going to be operating in. Cool. So what we'll do for the mission is we'll put all our targets within this area here that we want to kill. So we'll probably set up our cap in the middle here, our orbit, and then once we're on station, things will pop up and we'll just have to go and kill them. So let's set up our aircraft first of all. So from the as you saw from the generation of the template initially, this airbase here, King Hussein Air College, I set as the sort of like American Air Force base. So we've got some F-15s here, so we'll do like a cap mission at some point, and that's where we'll fly from using them. And today we've got some F-16 set up as well. If the F-15 Eagle, Strike Eagle, was released at the time of recording, I probably would have used that, just because it's an absolute bomb truck, but it's not ready yet, and I don't have the A10, so I'm going to use the F-16. I quite like the F-16. There's a lot of capability coming to it from Eagle Dynamics as well. So we're going to use the F-16 today. So let's go ahead and pop that in there. Take off from ramp. I'm going to change that to client, and then I'm going to go ahead and just call this CAS mission. And then just CAS mission pilot number 1. And we are going to be Jedi 2-1 today. let's go ahead and select our livery. Now I like this scheme. I think it was pretty badass. And let's go ahead and just select what we're going to operate with. So I don't want Mavericks personally. I want bombs. I think I'm going to go with 2 times. Let's see, where are we? 2 times GBU12s on one side, and a set of rockets on the other side. High explosives. Now, as you can see, we are probably a bit asymmetric there in terms of weight. You know, because they're £500 each. That's £1,000 just for them. And in fact, this doesn't even give us the weight, but I can imagine these aren't going to be as heavy. But I think that gives us a good variation of what we can do. You know, so if I don't know, for example, if there's some let's say insurgent troops about, you're probably not going to use a bomb for them. You're probably more likely to use a rocket or the gun. But you know, if there's a ground vehicle, probably more likely to use, or if there's like a heavy armoured vehicle, probably more likely to use the bomb rather than the rockets, I think. Yeah, so that's the thinking behind that. I don't know what the typical sort of CAS mission profile in terms of weapons layout. From a few pictures that I've seen this sort of configuration before. But what we'll do as well is we'll create a wingman, and this wingman's going to be an ace, obviously, because he's a mad lad, and he can be whatever. But I'm going to give him a different layout to it, so he can have some 2 times JDAM, and then he can also have do Mavericks. So, which Maverick do I want him to have? Ks? Should we give him Ks? He can have Ks, yeah. So you can have, that can be his layout. So it gives us a bit of flexibility between in the formation as to what how we can operate. So I'm just going to change this formation just straight off the bat. And then let's go ahead and just give us our routing into the area. So, as you know from previous missions, we can't come into this area because it's quite high intensity in terms of surface-to-air missile threats. So we're going to come up to here. Before we transit into the fact, let's go get rid of all this clutter because it's a lot of crap there that we just don't need to see, quite frankly. So there we are. So it's 2. We're going to come up. In fact, let me just. So let's put this here. It's 10,000 feet. Now at this point, as we're not too bothered about, because whatever. At this point, we probably want to be up at like 20,000 feet at least. And then we shall route up into our area here. So probably going to operate, carry orbit out about 25,000 feet. So this will be, I'm going to call it cap E, so cap entry. In fact, let's call it cap S, cap start. And then this will be cap E, cap end. And we'll just flicker between the two during our orbit. And obviously here we're quite close to our tanker as well. So this is, obviously we know from our template setup that this is the hose and drogue method tanker down here. And this is our boom method tanker up here, which is why I put the kill box up here and we're going to operate up here because it's close to our tanker. You know, if we were doing an F-18 mission, we'd probably look to have it set up down here for its CAS. Unfortunately, at the minute, DCS still can't distinguish between a boom receiver and a basket receiver. So you have to have separate tankers. Let me know. Unfortunately, one day that'll change, hopefully. But until then, we just live with what we got. Then we'll put our routing in for our exit back to BS. There you go, landing. Done. Nice. So next, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hide him for now because I don't need to see him at the moment. Next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have the I'm gonna have an AFAC for that's gonna point out our targets for us. So I'm gonna use the Reaper drone, but I'm gonna set probably two different ones up, and every time you spawn the mission, it'll be either one of them, not both, because they'll operate in this area here, and they'll have different routing each time as well. So the intent of this mission for me is I like to have semi-realism, I suppose. So I don't want it all to be over within, say, 45 minutes, and just pick out every target straight away. Because for me, it's just not. I like that little bit of realism. So what we're probably going to have is space it out over a good period of time. What that'll be, I don't really know, but we'll see. So let's set him up roughly about here. And let's just call him Aerial Reaper 1. And he's going to be Colt 91. And I'll make sure he's an AFAC type aircraft. I'm going to have him operating at 12,000 feet as well, doing 150 knots. That's ground speed. So it'll seem like he's going a bit slower once we get into the mission. Go into AFAC here, and again change this to Colt 91, and I've selected Colt 91 for a particular reason because I've got a radio transmission that I've made for this, and you'll see as we go along why I've got this. In terms of frequency, I'm not too bothered because we'll always pick them up. I'm not bothered really. Okay, so let's just copy that and paste. And the second one will come in from, say, up here. It'll start up here. So I'm going to call in 2. One we'll do is I'll have them fly different routes, so they always seem, so every time you fly it's different. And call 91. And let me call 91. I don't like that it won't let me have Colt 91. Whatever. And once we're close to the end, I'll set these to late activated, and then they'll activate once we hit a certain point in the mission. Because there's no point in having them spawn straight in if I stand from the ground, because they'll just come in and they'll start picking out targets for us straight away, and it just defeats the point a little bit. So in fact, maybe we'll start one already in theatre, and the route you'll fly is just different. Okay, so I'll route them later, but at the moment, let's start looking at putting in some targets here, I think. So let's start with something simple for the first one. But again, although it's the first one, we'll randomize it, so it's not going to be there every time. Otherwise it just gets very predictable and boring. So let's have some armor. And he can be sort of like down here somewhere. Set him up there. On the road. So what have we got here? Probably not going to have that, are they? So insurgents. Let's see what we want to let them have. Yeah, something like that. I'll probably do. going to be, so let's call this Reaper target 1, just so we can keep track when we come into the triggers to find it. It's just easier if we call it Reaper, a Reaper target, because you'll see from when we do the triggers that we have to set it a certain way for it to work. Okay, so Reaper target 1, cool. And then we'll have maybe some infantry of theirs probably following behind. It's like 4 of them. Another one there, and could be another vehicle of such. So they're going to be on the road. Let's just have them slowly going down. Going there. So it's going to take them about an hour and a half to get there anyway. So that's fine. So let's set them to late activate. In fact, what I'll do is I'll show you the method that I'm going to try and have this mission operate on. So let's have Reaper 1 here. I'm just going to put him closer just for the sake of this mission. For the sake of this little demonstration. I'm going to have it fly over here like so. What I want to do is this. Let's create a trigger zone for him. So I'm going to use the moving trigger zone, as I've shown you in a tutorial before. Reaper trigger zone 1. And let's give him, I don't know, like 15,000 feet. So it's only 7,500 feet each way, so let's make that to 20,000 feet. I think. Yeah, for the purpose of this little demonstration, I'll show you. I'll make that 20,000 feet. So I'm going to need 2 sets of flags. It's flag 5 and flag 6. So this will be let me think. Let me just think a second. Yeah, I need to snap the so trigger snap. So unit inside moving zone. So I want aerial Reaper 1, zone Reaper trigger zone 1. Snap it to Reaper 1. Then once it's done that, it's going to go flag 5 is on. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Next trigger is, it's going to be a switched condition, this one. So it's going to be Reaper target spot is what I'm going to call it. And then I want, this is where it's going to be, I've got a particular way of how I've got to set it up, because I can't have part of a coalition, for example, in a zone, because a zone is static. I've got a moving zone, so at the minute there's only units inside moving zone. There's no part of coalition inside moving zone, unfortunately. So I've got to be very precise to an extent of how we go about it. So the unit that's going to come in, so I called it Reaper target, didn't I? This is the annoying bit, I've got to go all the way down. So Reaper target 1 inside Reaper zone. And then the Reaper, the actual drone that I've got there. And once that's in the zone, then I want it to sound to all. Makes no difference because it's only going to be me in it. It's not a multiplayer mission, so only I'll hear it. And I'm going to select a tasking, a sound that I made, which is like this.
Jedi 2-1, contact Colt 9-1, we have tasking.
Because what I want to happen is, every time something comes into that zone, I want that Reaper to be able to contact me. Because an annoying thing is, once you are in the mission, and you check in to your AFAC or JTAC, if there's no target available at the time, it just tells you to depart. It won't hold you like as part of its sort of like profile for the 15 minutes you've checked in for, and then say like 10 minutes into it, it'll say, "Oh, quick, come over here. I've got a mission. I've got a target for you." That's it. You have to constantly keep checking in to see if there's anything there. So the idea behind this is, as soon as something has come within range of our Reaper, this sound will play, and I know, okay, well, effectively, I'm sort of like cheating in the way of saying the Reaper's telling me I've got a target for you now, rather than me having to check in every 15 minutes, if that makes sense. And the reason why I've got a sound for it is because certainly if you're in VR, sometimes you can miss if you just have a message show. Certainly if it's a clear message up in the right-hand corner of your screen, if you're looking down at your consoles, you might miss it. Whereas if you've got a sound playing, you won't miss it. You'll hear it. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. Okay, so once that happens, once that target is within there, then that message will sound. So let's go and put that into practice, just so you can see it work. Don't need to save it for now. Okay. It will look very stupid now if it doesn't actually work. But you'll be able to see, hopefully, the method behind the madness. There's probably better ways to do it, but this is the way I know how to do it. So let's just go ahead and select our aircraft. Just look at the menu. Okay, so here's our drone coming up. So hopefully we should hear him in a minute. Maybe. Depends on how far away he actually is. So as you can see, there's some little black dots above the right hand wing. That's the targets, effectively.
Jedi 2-1, contact Colt 9-1, we have tasking.
There you go. So now effectively we've made it so that, I know it's not really the Reaper contacting us, but DCS doesn't have a way of letting the Reaper contact us to give us the tasking. So I've just given that sound message so we know, okay, my Reaper's now in range and you can provide me with a 9 line. So I can contact the Reaper, which is obviously Colt 9-1, and get the tasking information, and it will give me information rather than saying we have no further available tasking, whatever. Okay, so that's the idea behind it. That's the idea why it's there. Which is, there's probably better ways of doing it, but for me, this is a way that works. So that's why I do it like that. Okay. If you've got any questions about it, anything, guys, just drop it down below, and I'll try and get back to you if I can. Okay, so let's just call it 1A actually. And let's just copy them and put them up here as well, because why not? On road. Call these 1B. Okay. And then, because I don't always want necessarily reds to spawn in, there could also be blue forces spawning, just to create that sort of. It's not always going to be red everywhere. So I'm going to put a blue force in down here as well. So maybe these can be like I don't know, some special forces that are just out on their shufty. So infantry, just get on there, off the road. What do we want them to look like? Definitely not that. Be nice to have some more infantry type like soldiers and stuff, different variations. Okay, so let's just have like, I don't know how many there would usually be in like a platoon or whatever, but they're going to I don't know, just walk down the side of this river here. Okay, something like that. It's very simple. And there'll be 1 Charlie. Charlie. Yeah, something like that, I think. And then let's put something in over here, like a building of some sort, maybe. So fortification, come down to insurgent, if they have any fortification type objects, which there is some stuff. So yeah, it's like could be like a bunker for them. They're doing some shady stuff. So this will be Reaper target D. Number 2, let's change that to an infantry unit. RPG. Let's bang him in there as well. He could be an AK guy. That's this dude. And then let's also put in, I don't know, like some sort of truck. Unarmed. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many bloody different trucks. You can never, well, at least I can't ever keep a track of what they're all called. Yeah, it could be a flatbed truck. Who cares? It can be obviously whatever you want. But let's just do something like that. And that can be a target there. Again, will be late activated. So in fact, let's just make them late activated. Late activated. Late activated. Late activated. Okay. And then I need to put in the. I'm going to get rid of this one just for now. I'll put it back in later. Don't need it there at the moment. So, yeah, okay. So kill box targets 1. So if flag, where is it? Is false. So flag 5 is false. Then group activate. Flag 5 is on. Yeah, that's right. So now I want it group in. No, let's have it at time. It can be time. Time is more than. It's probably going to take us probably like half an hour to transit up into there from setting up and everything. So, which is what 180 seconds, isn't it? So, 1,800 seconds, I should say. New random is random of 5%. But just to make sure it's working, let's just have it as set as 1. Let's clone that. Make that 1B. Clone. Make that 1 Charlie. Make that 1 Delta. If I cancel this, just make sure I've got this saved as cast mission. Yep, okay. I'm going to find that. Let's just make sure things are going to spawn in at their given time. So I can be a spectator for now. Okay, so there's our first one. That spawned in. Let's try it again to see if it's. See if it gives us a different target sort of thing spawned in. Again, spectator. Yeah, spawn in different things, which is cool. So what I will do is I can change that back to 1800 for all of them. And there we go. Right, so this is it. I'm going to cut this short. I'm going to stop this episode now because we've hit the 30-minute mark. So in the next episode, we'll continue just to bulk out and put in some more targets and stuff like that. And then we'll start getting our drones going and so on. So, as always, thanks for tuning in. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers, goodbye.